Growing a business is kind of tricky right now. Supply chains are squeezed, tariffs and trade policies are dynamic, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. You need clarity to come out on top. Without it, you risk falling behind. If only you could hop in the DeLorean and see the future, right? Thankfully, there's NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite has real-time forecasting to help you move ahead with confidence. This is your AI-powered business management suite and the #1 cloud ERP. Trusted by over 42,000 businesses, NetSuite brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. And with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. Congrats, your business is doing great. All your hard work is paying off, but you need help like now, and you have to hire fast. How can you hire amazing candidates quickly? Easy, just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. And with sponsored jobs, your posts jump to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. One of the things I love most about Indeed is that it has one of the largest databases of job seekers, giving employers access to a wide range of candidates. And with job alerts, I get notified when new candidates apply. And with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. So how fast? Well, in the minute that I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/SmartPassive. Just go to Indeed.com/SmartPassive right now and support a show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/SmartPassive. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed, is all you need. You spent months building towards launch day, but when the clock hits 0, your site crashes. Bots swarm, and loyal fans rage on Reddit. That's not good. Fanfare was built to stop that. Fanfare is the drop platform made for high-pressure moments, stampede-proof infrastructure, verified waitlists, and bot filters that actually work. Instead of refunds and rage, you get retention and revenue. And that sounds great to me. Your next launch shouldn't be a gamble. Get Fanfare's 5-step hype drop playbook and learn how to bulletproof your drop at fanfare.io/playbook. Again, that's fanfare.io/playbook. This is the Smart Passive Income Podcast with Pat Flynn, session number 284. Let's do it.
Welcome to the Smart Passive Income Podcast, where it's all about working hard now so you can sit back and reap the benefits later. And now your host. He used to have a problem reading the last page of every book first, Pat Flynn.
Still using a copy-paste website? Break the template trap with Framer. Whether you're overwhelmed by traditional site builders or frustrated with cookie-cutter designs, Framer gives you the freedom to create a site that's professional, polished, and uniquely yours. Framer is the design-first, no-code website builder that lets anyone ship a production-ready site in minutes. It's free to start, allowing you to browse hundreds of pixel-perfect templates or even design something on your own on a totally blank canvas. Add bold animations like appear effects, text effects, parallax scrolling, scroll animations, looping animations, and much more in seconds. The built-in AI handles the heavy lifting, generating starter layouts, and can even translate your entire site to any language. Ready to build a site that looks hand-coded without hiring a developer? Launch your site for free at framer.com and use code SPI to get your first month of pro on the house. That's framer.com, promo code SPI. Framer.com, promo code SPI. Rules and restrictions may apply. Running a business means legal questions are inevitable. Is this contract or agreement solid? What can I do if a client won't pay me? Am I set up properly for taxes? Well, rather than trying to navigate all of this on your own or searching endlessly online, imagine having a law firm on your side without the high hourly rates. That's exactly what Legal Shield's small business plans offer. With Legal Shield, entrepreneurs get access to real legal support, contract reviews, collection letters, guidance on business formation, and even help handling IRS audits. Members can book consultations, upload documents through the app, and work with a provider law firm that understands small business laws in your state. You also get proactive help on tax and trademark questions so you can stay ahead of legal risks. And if a client delays payment, Legal Shield can send professional collection letters to help you recover what you're owed, all for a fraction of what traditional attorneys charge. Go to LegalShield.com/SPI or call 833-570-9980 to learn more and get big business legal support without a big business budget. That's LegalShield.com/SPI. Welcome and thank you so much for joining me today in this session of the Smart Passive Income Podcast. I'm really excited because we're going to be talking with somebody who I've gotten to know over the last year, and he's awesome because he's helping several different people across all different niches with their crowdfunding campaigns. He's a crowdfunding expert. His name is Clay Hebert, but it's spelled Hebert, but it's pronounced Hebert, so go Bears. Anyway, Clay Hebert, he's awesome. Crowdfundinghacks.com. But you know what? The URL for today's episode to get more information from him is clayandpat.com. Actually, we talk so much about some of the ins and outs of these campaigns that I think it's going to inspire a lot of you to potentially get your idea up on Kickstarter so you can have people support it, gain new exposure, and all those kinds of things. And we are actually going to be talking in more depth later on in a webinar so you can get your questions answered and all those kinds of things. Plus, I'm actually going to be poking his brain even more specific to some of the Kickstarter related things that I'm going to be doing related to a physical product that I'm coming out with. So if you want to learn more about that, the URL is clayandpat.com. But anyway, the way that I met Clay was pretty awesome. We played basketball together, and we are both around the same size. I think he may be a little bit taller than I am, but typically we play basketball with a lot of tall people, and he and I are always guarding each other, and he is just a shooter from the outside. He's always scoring threes, and it's just always fun to battle Clay, and he and I have gotten to know each other very well through that, and I'm just really excited to have him on the show. So let's cut the fluff, and let's go right into it. Here we go. Clay, what's up? Thank you for coming on the SPI podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Pat. I've been wanting to do this forever and super stoked to be here.
I've been wanting to do it forever too, especially because I've gotten to know you mostly through the basketball games that we've been playing together here in San Diego for certain events. And, Clay's a great guy. He's only pushed me and shoved me a couple times, but he always extends his hand to pick me back up, which is cool. So that's why I love him. But anyway, as many of you know, it is crowdfunding month here on SPI, which is really great because I know a lot of you are thinking about running your own Kickstarter and Indiegogo campaigns and GoFundMe campaigns. But me, personally, I'm going to be doing one very soon related to this online, actually physical product that I'm going to be launching that is currently, by the time of this recording, or on the date of this recording, it's actually being tested with the 21 beta testers out there. And the big idea is to validate the process, to get it to a point where it's fine-tuned, and then go big with a Kickstarter campaign to not only make money through that, but mostly to get the exposure. So Clay, welcome to the show. Thank you. I want to talk all things crowdfunding and things like that. But before we get to that, can you talk about a little bit about where you came from, what you did before you got into Kickstarter and crowdfunding?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep it short, but my first career out of college was at Accenture doing big corporate consulting at Accenture, which I believe now is the largest consulting firm in the world. And believe me, it felt like it. I think now they have over 400,000 employees, which is more like a nation than a company. But it was great for a number of years. In 2003, I was about halfway through my time there. And I was flying through O'Hare Airport on a layover in between two different client gigs, and needed another book to read, so I dashed into the bookstore, and they were calling my name, so I just grabbed the quickest book I could find, and it was Purple Cow by Seth Godin. Mm-hmm. And that book totally changed how I thought about business. I didn't have a Jerry Maguire moment and quit Accenture the next day. I just said, "Oh, this is great." I felt like this was the secret scrolls of innovation that we hadn't found as a firm, and so I spent a number of years trying to bring that kind of thinking inside of this huge monolithic organization, and that's not really how they're set up or how they're set up to succeed. So in end of 2008, I was living in San Diego. I was 9 or 10 years into the career at Accenture, and trying to do more with marketing and creativity and entrepreneurship and things like that. And Seth blogged about an opportunity to study with him in his office. So I applied for that and was fortunate enough to get into that, which meant I had to pack up my life in San Diego and move to New York, and did that for 6 months. Got to sit at a table with Seth and learn from the fire hose for 6 months, and then ended up staying in New York until about April of 2015. And during that time, after that program, I just quit Accenture, hung out a shingle, started helping initially authors, then entrepreneurs, then smaller companies, medium-sized companies, and eventually bigger companies with marketing strategy, really just figuring out marketing. In 2009, 2010, 11, it was a lot based around social media. People wanted to figure that out. And now it's less about the tactics and more about just really figuring out the strategy. So marketing strategy is really what I do. The Kickstarter and the crowdfunding stuff started in about 2013. A friend of a recent client had called, and she said, "Help! My Kickstarter is not getting funded. It was already live, and I was in Hawaii, and I was like, well, I'm on vacation. I don't really want another small client." And she's like, "Okay, that's fine. Just take a look at the video." And she sent me her campaign. It was already live, and the video was just a tearjerker. It was for a documentary film called Gold Star Children, and the term Gold Star Children is about children who've lost parents at war. And the producer and the creator is a woman named Mitty Muir. She lost her dad in Vietnam just hours after she was born, and she was making a film to connect her generation with the current generation of kids. And so it was this amazing, awesome cause and everything. I was like, okay, cool, I'll help you. And that was my first Kickstarter campaign that I helped. And with very sort of minimal strategic marketing, we were able to quickly turn around her campaign and get it funded so she could finish her film. And then the film went on to win a bunch of awards and things like that. So that was my first introduction. But then, as it happens, as you know well, then I was just talking to a friend literally over a basketball game, like you mentioned, and he said, "Oh, my friend Slim is launching a Kickstarter next week. Maybe you could help him." And then, as things happened, it just kind of snowballed, and 1 turned into 2 and 5 and 10, and it really just snowballed from there.
And how many entrepreneurs have you helped thus far?
A year ago, it was at a nice round number of 150 campaigns and $50 million. And I kind of stopped there because it was a nice round number. And I think now, if I look back at the spreadsheet, it's over 200 campaigns and about $70 million. So it's been a lot of fun to help these creators. And that level of help, sometimes it's a 1-hour phone call, and sometimes I'm more involved in the project, but have touched that many campaigns in some level.
That's really cool. Now, for those who are listening, they might be thinking, "Oh, well, this Kickstarter thing that sounds great. Like, why would I even want to invest in putting time and effort into that where I could promote it elsewhere?" Like, why, from your mouth, would you say going down the crowdfunding campaign is really the way to go?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's actually a number of reasons why someone might want to do crowdfunding, sort of as you alluded to earlier. You're not doing yours because you've got no other way to fund this project. You're doing it for validation, for exposure, and things like that. So there's a whole list of reasons why one might want to do it. Validation is a great one. Although on the validation piece, I just want to make a quick point. It much like your excellent book, Will It Fly? Validation on Kickstarter and crowdfunding is not just about slapping it up there and crossing your fingers and there is no validation if you just post your campaign. You have to do all the steps that you talk about in your book. You have to do the pre-marketing. You have to find your tribe. You have to find the people that care. Then if you do that and bring them there, then the validation counts. And just posting a project, it's not like there's this magic jury of 1 million Kickstarter people waiting to look at your project and deem whether it's worthy or not. You need to bring the appropriate tribe. I always say 99.9% of people do not care about your project, whatever it is. That's not bad news. That's actually good news, because it allows you to focus and find the 0.1% of people that do care. And so validation is one reason. Most people do it, for the funds, because they need or they want the money that's associated with it. But you make a very good point, and your whole audience is, very attuned to this. Doing it on crowdfunding is a choice, and it needs to make sense, because certain people know how to, let's say post something online or create a Shopify store or do something else or launch something else. So the benefit of doing it via Kickstarter has to be worth it. Now, I always say the little phrase of, is something a good idea for crowdfunding? A creative project with a beginning and an end in which something new gets made and shared with a tribe of people that you can identify and build permission with before you launch. So that was a mouthful, so I'll say it one more time. A creative project with a beginning and an end in which something new gets made and shared with a tribe of people that you can identify and build permission with before you launch. So if you look at Jeff Sheldon's recent campaign for Gather, a really cool sort of Apple-esque desk organizer, it fits all of those things perfectly, right? It was a creative project. He was making this new kind of thing. It had a beginning and an end. He actually ran his campaign for 60 days, and we can talk about campaign duration and things like that. It ticked off all those boxes. And if you look at we'll just take an extreme example, like accounting services. I've literally over the years had people reach out to me and like, I want to promote my, accounting business on Kickstarter. I'm like, why? What are you doing? There's no creative project. There's no beginning and an end. So that's the little checklist.
Okay. So creative, beginning and an end. And you'd mentioned tribe a few times. Do you have to have a tribe before you go up on Kickstarter or crowdfund? Or, I think a lot of people might be like, oh, well, I don't even know where to start in terms of reaching out. Like, is just simply putting it up there going to help?
Here's what I say about that. If you want to raise any substantial amount of money, if you're trying to raise $200, maybe you don't need a tribe and enough people are going to find you on Kickstarter. But in general, the Kickstarter audience is not your audience. So yes, the short answer is yes, you need a tribe. The caveat to that is depends how much you're trying to raise, depends how else you might promote it. We all know people who maybe don't have a big tribe themselves, but they have a lot of relationships and people who might promote it for them, or if they can, there's this concept I call flash press and cash press, and we can get into that. But basically, the thing I'll say about how much traffic and backers the platform themselves brings is the platforms are not free money in the sense of you're not going to slap up a Kickstarter campaign with no tribe and no promotion and raise any substantial amount of money, because the right people are not going to see it. The people on the other end of Kickstarter, like I said, 99.9% of them don't care about your thing, but it's actually very easy to go find your tribe, find the sub-tribes of the people who care. One of the things I teach is define all the sub-tribes. So we'll pick one of the campaigns I helped years ago was this really cool cooking iPad app called Pana. This guy named David Elner was a music industry executive. He retired, and he got Thomas Keller's cookbook, and he made buttermilk fried chicken, Thomas Keller's famous recipe. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing, and he was blown away that he actually cooked something that tasted so good. But what he wanted didn't exist. He had his cookbook, he had the iPad, he had his laptop with YouTube, and he had flour and chicken all over the counter, and it was a mess. He said, I want one app where Thomas Keller himself makes his famous recipe of his fried chicken. I want him cooking it on the video. I want the recipe right next to it. I want to be able to order the ingredients, So he created what he wanted to exist. And he didn't have a tribe of people. He was completely new to that game. He was not in the cooking game. He was not in the iPad app development game. And so we worked with him. And one of the things I helped him with was, I said, it's easy to find these food bloggers to build your tribe. You don't have a tribe, and as fast as he wanted to launch, he wasn't going to take the time to build an email list. I said, but if you think about these food bloggers, you can't just email them, tug on their sleeve and say, hey, will you please write about my thing because I want you to. That's obviously the wrong way to do things, as you teach. I say develop the win-win. What's the win-win? So I said, all you have to do is tweak it a little bit. So Pana is it's like a $15 a month subscription or something like that. I said, go to these food bloggers, tell them what you're working on. Say, how about this? You get a lifetime subscription to Pana. So if you're a food blogger, say a medium-sized food blogger, you get this lifetime subscription to this beautiful magazine with all these chefs. And so that's great. And I said, if you give one away to your audience, you can run a contest on your blog, you can do whatever. And then here's all the creative assets and the photos and the videos and the GIFs. So I was like, now instead of just asking them for promotion, you've solved the problem that every blogger has, which is they need new content and they need to add value to their audience. So that he basically hands them the new content on a silver platter, and then the value to their audience is they get to run a really cool campaign, and then the blogger themselves gets a lifetime subscription to this app and one to give away to their people. So with some small tweaks that really wouldn't have cost him anything, then he's able to get a bunch of food bloggers on board. So the sub-tribes in that case are, food bloggers, super hardcore foodies, but then also like iPad app early adopters. As you know, there's people who buy every cool new hip iPad app. They look at the newly released top store, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Also like fans of specific chefs. Like I would have, Mario Batali as a sub-tribe for that. Thomas Keller is a sub-tribe for that, and like go on those forums and Twitter accounts and things like that and follow people. So there's defining the sub-tribes is kind of step one. If you don't already have a big tribe like you do, they need to define their sub-tribes, and that's who are the 0.1% of people who care and where are the pockets where they live online.
Nice. Super actionable. Thank you. So step one, define those tribes and sub-tribes. What would then be step two after that point?
Well, so you have to, the three steps that I say kind of at a high level, you have to decide to lead, which is decide that this is an important project and you're going to do it and you're going to step forward and be the leader, which kind of is just more of a mental thing, sure. But it means when you hit a roadblock that you're going to go through it. Then you find your tribe and find your sub-tribes, figure out where they live online. I'll give one more quick, really good example of this. I'm not a big cat person. I'm kind of more of a dog person. But one of the campaigns I helped was called Kittyo, Kittyo, and it's just the best example of finding your tribe online. So Lee Miller built this. When he came to me and he was going to launch Kittyo on Kickstarter, and I said, yeah, it's a really neat device. It's a tower with a laser and a speaker, and you can play with your cat when you're not home via an app. It was really cool. But I said, you have to do all the pre-marketing. I said, how many emails do you have? And he said, I have 2. And I was like, what do you mean you have 2 emails? I was like, did he just put up his landing page today or what? And he said, I use one for work and one for personal. I was like, no, not how many emails do you use? I said, how many? And he literally didn't know. He literally said, what's a landing page, et cetera, et cetera. So I worked with him and we built a really great landing page. He had great kind of branding assets and things like that. And I fixed all the copy, and we created this page that converted at 40% when it was promoted in the right places. So then over 6 months, he gathered 13,000 emails. And then when he launched, he was funded in 36 minutes, doubly funded, 200% funded on the first day, and raised $270,000. And he was literally, like some of your listeners, literally starting from scratch to the point where he had 2 emails, one for work, one for personal. So but the point was, like, one of the sites where we promoted this landing page was a site called House Panther. It's HAUS Panther. And the tagline for House Panther is the premier online magazine for design-conscious cat people. And it's obscure, but it's one of the best examples I have of saying, you build your landing page, and then you have to go find your version of House Panther. Where is the niche of the internet where the super crazies of the people that are interested in your thing hang out? And because I'm a dog person, I've never heard of House Panther. And they don't have millions of views every month, but they have, let's say, 50,000 views. So then you go back to this win-win. On House Panther, they do a product giveaway every month to keep that's one of the things they do. One of the post types they have is to keep their people engaged. They say, enter your email to win this product. So he was able to sort of slide into their editorial calendar in the way that they wanted and said, hey, will you do a giveaway for Kittyo? And he got 2,000 emails in a weekend. So he was starting from scratch, and over 6 months, he was able to build this great, tribe to launch his product. But the point is, most people don't do the work of finding what's your House Panther, what's your site with 20 or 30 or 50,000 uniques, where every single person who goes to House Panther is interested in Kittyo, as opposed to, so that's what I call cash press, like the more niche bloggers, not like super tiny, not 5 visitors a month, but like the small to medium sized blogs where it's super targeted. Mm-hmm. Because Lee Miller was also on The View with Whoopi Goldberg, and we get taught that, big media, New York Times, right, The View, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I call flash press. It's flashy, and certainly if Whoopi Goldberg calls your product, her favorite product of the year, it's not going to move a bunch of traffic in units, because people don't go to Whoopi Goldberg for cat devices, they go to House Panther. But it's good, as social proof, where you cut out that testimonial, put it on your landing page, put it on your Kickstarter page, and then the people that you bring from the other channels, it'll be the social proof where people say, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. It's like when you and I see movie trailers, let's say pre-roll on YouTube, and it says best action movie of the year, Rolling Stone. When's the last time you or I read Rolling Stone magazine? But they still use it as, if it's good enough for Rolling Stone, it's good enough for us to see. It's like a trusted source, right? It's social proof. So,
That's cool. And I'm looking at the Kitio Kickstarter page. 2,400 backers pledging over $271,000 to help bring this project to life. That's pretty incredible. And then the other one you mentioned earlier, Pana, the pledge goal was 25,000 and it reached 34,000. So that's awesome.
So David, I handed him this great food blogger strategy, and he's like, "Yeah, that's a good idea, but I don't have time to execute it." I'm like, "All right, I was like, that's going to be the difference between raising 35,000 and raising 300,000." But he, the strategy was there, but he needed to launch like the next day or something like that, so he didn't execute it.
Well, he said, he still reached his pledge goal. Speaking of, like, how do we know what our pledge goal should be? I've seen many different projects have many different goals. I mean, a part of me feels like you should just make it pretty low so that, you can get access to it, because you, at least on Kickstarter, right, you don't get access to that cash until you meet that pledge goal. But wouldn't that make you just want to make it like $1?
So you're thinking about it completely right. You want to set your funding goal low, but there's a couple different reasons why you want to do that. You want to set it low, but it depends on your actual costs for the project, because the worst thing you can do is raise money, get your project funded, and have that not be enough. So let's just take a physical example. Let's say you're building a new kind of drone, right? The SPI drone or whatever. Mm-hmm. If you need $100,000 to place the order for the factory in China to deliver the drone, you don't want to set your funding goal at $20,000, because then you'll end up in a spot where you raise 50 and the backers think your project's funded, but you don't have enough to actually make it happen. Right. So you have to figure out your hard costs, what you actually need to make it happen. The big psychology play here is with donation-based crowdfunding. We're talking about rewards-based crowdfunding. With donation-based crowdfunding like GoFundMe projects or a well in Africa, or somebody has cancer or medical bills or things like that. With those kinds of projects, people tend to slow down their donations once they hit the goal. So if you think about any kind of fundraiser or Pencils of Promise, gala or something like that, if they say the goal for the evening is $1 million and they get a bunch of people and then you hit the $1 million, the donations tend to slow down because they say, great, we hit our goal, we did our thing. Right. When it's a physical reward, when it's a rewards-based project and you're getting a drone or a hoodie or an app, you actually want to get it funded sooner, and then people will blow past the goal. If you look at any of the top funded Kickstarter projects, it's not that people say they're not donating to Eric Mijakovsky because they think he's a nice guy. They want their Pebble watch, or they want their coolest cooler, or they want their Bebo hoodie, or whatever it is. So with rewards-based, it turns into a store. With donation-based, if it's a cause-based thing and there's not really much of a reward, then it lets everyone get together so that we can hit the funding goal. In rewards-based, it's let's blow past the funding goal. The other reason you want to set your funding goal as low as possible, again, don't get yourself into manufacturing cost issues, is because you can manufacture a bit of a press story. The press needs more and more reasons to write about your crowdfunding campaign. In 2010, 2011, 2012, crowdfunding was new enough that just an interesting product on crowdfunding was enough for the press to write about it. Uh-huh. Now, of course, they've been deluged with, requests for promotion. So you need to figure out what's the hook and who are the press outlets that you even want to write about your thing. But then what's the hook? And one of those additional hooks, one additional kind of drop in that bucket can be funded in, just like Kitio funded in 36 minutes. I helped a campaign just a few days ago, kind of a unique niche little campaign that's still alive called Cartoontropolis. Uh-huh. And it was like, get a digital cartoon version. So you get a digital cartoon version of Pat Flynn, and then you could put yourself in this Cartoontropolis city, which kind of looked like the posters of The Simpsons with all the characters kind of thing. Yeah, it was a neat little thing, but we architected it with a really low funding goal so that he was funded in the first day, and then he can use that to flip and go talk to local press and say, hey, this is this interesting thing. Mm-hmm. But you're not going out saying, please write about me because I need to hit my funding goal. You're saying, oh, don't worry about it, we were funded quickly. So by setting your funding goal low and hitting it quickly, you can manufacture a press story.
That's awesome. That's really, there's so much involved with this. I could see why hiring somebody like you to help manage a campaign would be really helpful. But higher level, for people who can't do that, what are some of the biggest mistakes that people are making with their crowdfunding campaigns right now? Yeah,
absolutely. The biggest mistake I see is just that overarching one we touched on earlier, which is thinking that just by crafting a campaign and publishing on Kickstarter that magically Kickstarter is going to bring you the traffic and backers. I always say, like I said, it's not free money, but it is free to use. And what I mean by that is the campaign, the platforms charge 5%, and they bring you more than 5% of the traffic and backers. Now, they're not going to bring you 85 or 90%. They're probably not even going to bring you 40%. I always say count on 10 to 15%, that's usually a pretty solid and conservative estimate. And you know what? If it ends up being 30 or 40%, that's great. So the biggest mistake is don't count on the platforms for the traffic and backers. Build the tribe ahead of time. And if Lee Miller can do it in 6 months, starting with 0 emails, you can too. The second biggest mistake I see is a lack of clarity about what the thing is and why people will benefit. The best Kickstarter campaigns have what I call instant clarity, as in everything from the title to the video, which we can talk about the video, but the video should be 2 minutes or less, right around 2 minutes, ideally even shorter. And then really clear rewards and pricing. People get clever. And as you know, most bad marketing and most things that are named poorly, the person got a little bit too clever. And so as an example, I've seen a bunch of people submit, rewards-based proposals with, the Mad Hatter level and the Alice in Underground level or whatever. And you're making your reader read the additional copy as opposed to just literally saying the 3-pack, three of everything or, whatever the reward level is. So I always implore clients to be as specific and clear as possible throughout the whole thing. And we'll do a whole run through the campaign and say, is the title extremely clear? Okay, now let's pretend it got shared on Twitter and Facebook. Did you come up with is the title so clever that if it was shared by itself without the link, pretend all they saw was the title on Twitter or Facebook, would it make sense? And part of it's about giving up the cleverness of the writing of the copy. And another little trick on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, you can kind of get away with saying the world's first, the world's best travel jacket, Babo or whatever. Like, there's no lawyers that are coming. It's an opinion, but if you say the world's best travel jacket and then that gets pushed to Twitter, if someone sees that and then a link, they kind of have an idea of what they're going to see when they get there. Some sort of someone's opinion of the world's best travel jacket, but don't say, people get too clever. So instant clarity is another mistake I see. And it's tough being the creator. So much about your project. You've talked about this on the podcast before. Like when you know your thing so well, you're so close to it, sometimes you don't back up and take the words and the clarity to explain it to the audience in a way when someone's seeing it for the first time. Yeah.
There's a lot of instances of that, for sure. At least I know I've experienced that too. You've mentioned rewards a few times. Can we go into this? Because this is something that I feel can be very confusing, but also have heard that it's also very dangerous because you can definitely have the rewards and all those pledge goals and gifts kind of overshadow everything. And actually I've heard horror stories of just the fulfillment procedures for all that just really screwing everything up.
Yeah, absolutely. Perks are definitely a huge piece of make or break, making or breaking a crowdfunding campaign. People ask me questions like, I read a blog post that said, that said the average is $25. Do I need to have a reward at $25? Sorry, just taking a drink of water. And averages like that are silly. They don't make sense. People are looking, somebody does the math across all things and they say, the most average contribution is $25. Mm-hmm. That means nothing. It needs to be relevant to your campaign. The biggest mistake I see in rewards is people conflate rewards-based crowdfunding with donation-based crowdfunding. And what I mean by that is go poke around Kickstarter and you'll see about 80% of the campaigns have as the first reward level some version of what I call the expensive thank you, which is something like $5 or $10. And it's like, thank you so much. We'll love you forever. We'll tweet your name from our Twitter account we just started last week. We'll put your name on our wall of fame. Nobody cares. Nobody wakes up wanting to donate to a Kickstarter. Your mom, your sister, your grandma, and after that, the list is really short. And if they're doing it, they should be donating at a higher level anyway. So what I tell people is instead of the expensive thank you, instead of a $5 or $10, essentially nothing, almost a slap in the face, which is the worst way to get someone into your rewards and pricing, because you turn them off in the first chance.
Totally.
I say, how much value can you give them for $1? And you've been doing this for years, like tons and tons of value. Like for $1, what can you give them? Can you give them a great PDF summary? Can you give them a video series? Can you give them a instructional on how to use your new drone or whatever? Like, what is digital and super valuable that you can give them, and make it as low as possible, and $1 as low as you can go. And for I know a lot of your crowd is, understands internet marketing and list building and things like that. Mm-hmm. Well, you get the emails of your backers once the campaign is over, if you're funded. And so if you want to think about it this way, if it helps you give away more value, they're paying you $1 to give you their email address, right? Now, the magic of this whole thing is, you actually don't want them at that $1 level. You want them at a higher level. Right. So the way you do that is, now you create a level at $7 that includes the thing you included at $1 plus this other valuable digital thing. It could be physical, but I recommend keeping the rewards digital until they go to physical. And that's a little different for every campaign. But if you have a handful of digital things, it makes fulfillment easier. You can just send them an AWS link or a Dropbox link to say reward level 1, reward level 2. So now the psychology, when they look at the $7 level, they'll be like, well, is basically the question their brain is asking is what's included at reward level 2 worth $6? Because I'm already getting this great deal for the thing at $1, right? It's only $6 more. It's almost like extra value meal pricing, right? You'd be silly to buy the burger and the fries and the drink all separately. Right. The extra value meal makes it worth it. So then maybe you go from 7 to 20. I mean, the numbers the numbers are just examples. It all depends on the campaign, but you want to price everything what I call below MSRP. So MSRP, just, manufacturer's suggested retail price. It's essentially the price. What would something cost in the store? What would it cost? What's it going to cost after the campaign? If you don't have an MSRP for your product, think of what are you going to charge people post Kickstarter. And so rewards should be priced what I call below MSRP. And that's because people are giving you money long before. It's not an Amazon transaction. It's not a Zappos transaction. They're not going to get 24-hour shipping. They're going to have to wait for months. A certain percentage of Kickstarter projects never actually create their thing and never fail. So they're taking on a lot more risk, and they're the first people putting money in. So you want to give them that great sort of early bird pricing. And so it should be priced below MSRP. And then there's early bird to, you can limit the number of units at the early bird price, which I often recommend. And then even at the regular Kickstarter price, even the most expensive that your whatever you're selling is on Kickstarter, it should still be lower than it's going to be sold once it's off of Kickstarter or on your store, like below MSRP. So then you build these levels, and you basically want them to look at each subsequent level and say, gosh, I'd be silly to do the $1. I'd be silly to do the $7 level, because the $19 level has so much more goodies and stuff. You funnel all that down, and then you want to end at what I call the no-brainer level. And a bunch of the campaigns I've worked on, we just call it that, the no-brainer level. And the no-brainer level is the everything in the kitchen sink. And it should be pretty obvious as you're going into a campaign. Let's say you're doing a new kind of drone or whatever. And if you want to workshop what your Kickstarter is, we could do that live and talk through your specifics. We could definitely do that if you want. But let's say it's a drone. The no-brainer level would obviously include the drone and maybe all of the accessories and the video of how to set it up and how to use it and how to attach it with your GoPro and take great photos and whatever that is. But you want to funnel people down to the no-brainer level. And then if you have higher dollar reward levels, like let's say, $1,000, multiple $1,000 types of packages, you actually want the price differential between the no-brainer level and the next level to be much more substantial. And what this is doing is it's kind of creating a call to action. You can't highlight or circle the reward level on Kickstarter and say this is the one you want. So you do it with a combination of pricing and copy, and funnel them down and say this is the one you want. And then the next jump is a lot bigger. So that may be for the true fans, that may be direct access to Pat, that may be whatever those levels are at a higher price, maybe a keynote, something like that. Mm-hmm. But the everything in the kitchen sink, the no-brainer level, should be the highest dollar of the lower level rewards, and then maybe 2 or 3x to jump, because then you're going to get the true fans, but you want to tell everyone else to say basically, this is the call to action, this is the level you want.
Right. Okay. Understood. You had mentioned like going through the specifics of my campaign. We can maybe do that at a later date. Maybe we can, after we kind of finish up here in the outro, we can talk about maybe a webinar that people can get access to where you and I chat and go into a little bit more specifics. And I also know that you have a course that's going to be offered too. We can mention that in there as well. So make sure you stick around to the end. I mean, we're almost finished here because we're definitely utilizing Clay in terms of a top level overview of all the things we need to worry about and think about when making the decision to start potentially going down this route. And so if you want to get more info, stick around to the end. I'll give you a link where Clay and I will then either have the ability to register for the webinar, or it might be a replay if you're listening to this in the future. So we'll hook you up with that later. But stick around. And so Clay, like campaign fulfillment, I mean, let's keep talking about that really quick. T-shirts, like, do things like that work, or should the bonuses or the perks be related to the product in kind of a little bit better way?
I'm so glad you asked that. You're so smart. So you should only be offering T-shirts as a reward level if one of two things are true. One is if your campaign is about T-shirts, then obviously your whole thing is about T-shirts. And number two is if you are a person who goes into it with a big fan base and a big tribe of your own. Like, for instance, if you launch your thing, Pat, and it's in any way related to SPI or to you or whatever, then using the Kickstarter campaign to say, here's some fun new SPI T-shirts that we've never released before, maybe in Kickstarter green, et cetera, like, then there's cool things you could do. The mistake I see tons of people make, and I highly recommend against it, is don't offer T-shirts if nobody knows who you are. And the simple way to remember this is think about your favorite band. Whoever's listening to this, think about your favorite band. If you have a T-shirt of that band, you didn't buy the T-shirt until you either had multiple albums of that band or you've seen them live multiple times. Then you buy the T-shirt, because you buy the T-shirt as an identity thing to say, look, I am a fan of Jack Johnson. I am a fan of whoever. Mm-hmm. You don't buy the T-shirt and then buy the CD and say, I'm going to take these both home and listen to it to figure out if I'm a fan of this. And that's the psychology that people get wrong on Kickstarter is like, nobody wants your T-shirt because they don't know if they like you yet. They only buy the T-shirt once they're a fan.
I really like that distinction. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, what else are we missing, Clay? What are some of the other big Kickstarter-related topics that we need to talk about? I think you mentioned video, right?
Yeah, the video should be short, sweet, 2 minutes or less. There's a whole bunch of specific elements that you want to include in the video, and I'll just hit off some of them.
Sure.
One is, what's the problem you're solving? And so a great example of one of my favorite, really all his videos, but specifically the one, if people want to look it up, and we can link it up in the show notes, Jake Bronstein, the 10-year hoodie. He was selling a hoodie. He raised $1 million selling a hooded sweatshirt that really nobody who bought it needed a sweatshirt. He told a story about American manufacturing, and his intro to his video was absolutely brilliant. He said, "Can I tell you a secret?" That was his opening line to the video. Now, that's a question that almost nobody in history has ever said no to, because we like secrets. We want to know secrets. And so then he says, the clothes you're wearing were designed to fall apart. And he was talking about H&M and Zara and Uniqlo and fast fashion like that, where, yeah, it's $8 for a blouse, but it's literally designed to last 2 weeks. And so his product, and whether that's true or not, that was the positioning, and that's the story he told in his video, because his product was an $80 hooded sweatshirt that's called the 10-year hoodie because it was designed to last 10 years. And then his video was brilliant. All these images of Americana and how he was going to resurrect American manufacturing and use all these great high quality hardware, zippers, and da-da-da-da-da. So cool. The point is, he told an amazing story in a minute 57. And if you click on his name and go to the rest of his campaigns, Jake has gone back to the well. That's another thing I want to remind your listeners of is Kickstarter is not a one and done sort of thing. You could, if you have a tribe and if you build a tribe and if your people like you, you can go back to the well. And so Jake has run 4 or 5 Kickstarters. He's done one for jeans. He did one literally just for blue shoelaces, because part of his whole thing is his company is called Flint and Tinder, and they made the hoodie and then they made the jeans. And he really is, doing a lot with American manufacturing. And so just like the Livestrong movement had this yellow rubber bracelet that we all had, the American manufacturing movement that he was a big part of leading didn't really have a visual moniker. So he created these bright blue shoelaces that you could lace up your, brown leather boots and say, hey, if you see blue shoelaces, it's kind of the Harley nod, right? Like, hey, you're in the know and you believe in American manufacturing. So one of his campaigns
has like 11,000 backers at 150K.
Yeah, totally.
Blue shoelaces. That's awesome.
Yeah, because it's a story. And I'd love that you looked that up and said that, because what I want your listeners to take away is nobody who bought that had a shoelace problem that day. They were opting in to join a movement, and they were probably already either fans of Jake or customers of Flint and Tinder, et cetera, et cetera. But watch the video. He shows like this big burly, it's like America's Strongest Man kind of thing, pulling a semi with blue shoelaces. But the whole while, Jake is narrating and saying, join our tribe, join our movement, et cetera, et cetera. Nobody bought those shoelaces because they didn't have any shoelaces in their boots. They literally took out their existing fully functional shoelaces and inserted a story into their boots. So that's the key takeaway there, is they didn't need shoelaces. He told a story.
That's cool. And so he built up an audience through Kickstarter initially, and now has been able to go back in.
Jake was good with media, but it's interesting. He didn't have a huge tribe or a huge email list, but he was more like ready, fire, aim, like he launched it and then he hustled, and he knows how to get press and eyeballs. But more important than anything, he knows how to tell a story. The other thing I want to talk about, and it's funny because I was talking about this before, it was the name of a conference, but the two reasons any Kickstarter or crowdfunding campaign succeeds or fails are traffic and conversion, which is also now a conference that Pat and I organized a basketball game for. But traffic, people think they have a traffic problem. They think they need more eyeballs. I cringe as a marketer when people say the word eyeballs, because it's an organ in your face and there's humans attached to that face. And again, 99.9% of people don't care about your thing. So if you're even thinking about it as eyeballs, you're thinking about it wrong. You need to be thinking about sub-tribes and pockets and house panthers, and who are the small little pockets of people who care. And those people aren't eyeballs, they're customers. And so people think they have a traffic problem, but really they have a conversion problem. And the elements of the campaign page, like the video, like pricing your rewards below MSRP, like having a digital gift at $1 versus an expensive thank you at $10, right? Those things increase conversion. But the number one thing that increases conversion is bringing the people who care, because there was nothing wrong with Kitty-O, but I'm not going to buy one because I'm not a cat person. I don't own a cat, so I don't need a Kitty-O. But by fishing in the pond of House Panther, where those people hang out, and lots of other sites, there's another little there's a little specific sort of ninja trick, and it's a site that you may already know of. But once you find a site like House Panther, so a really targeted site where it's, what I call cash press, like niche blogger, enough traffic, but where all your people are hanging out. Mm-hmm. A great way to find similar sites is a site called SimilarWeb. You just punch in that URL into SimilarWeb, and SimilarWeb's pretty amazing. It will give you not quite Google Analytics level data, but one level up, some general data. Mm-hmm. But you could punch Smart Passive Income into SimilarWeb or House Panther into SimilarWeb. It's public, and it will show you, here are the traffic, here are the sites linking in, where they're getting most of their traffic, here are the sites when people leave the site, where they tend to go. And so from using SimilarWeb from House Panther, you can figure out people are going to moderncat.net and other sort of sites like that. So that's how you build out the sites of your sub-tribes.
That's awesome. SimilarWeb.com. Dude, we've talked about a lot of strategies, very actionable stuff. I think a lot of people are going to be really excited about this because it's very useful. And Clay, I'm really looking forward to continuing this conversation. We're going to go, and I'm going to share with you a link. Actually, we could probably share with them the link right now. We can just change it as we go along. Yeah. What is that link, Clay, where people can go and learn more about this and get access to the webinar, or register for it, or watch the replay and see what else you have to offer? Where should they go?
We made it super easy. It's just clayandpat.com. So CLAYANDPAT.com.
Cool. Yeah, there's a lot more questions I have for you, and we're going to get into the specifics of some of the stuff I'm working on there too. And plus, I want to know about like what happens after a campaign's over. So this is a nice teaser for Kickstarter and crowdfunding. If you want to learn more, go to clayandpat.com. That's how we know that you want to keep diving deeper into this. I would say maybe the last question Clay, is besides clayandpat.com, like where else can people find you?
Yeah, I'm Clay Hebert pretty much everywhere online. And if you want to read some more blog posts on crowdfunding and stuff like that, I have stuff at crowdfundinghacks.com or clayhebert.com, any of those sites.
Awesome. Man, thanks so much. I appreciate you. And we'll talk more on the webinar, and looking forward to the next basketball game.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, Pat. I had a blast.
Thanks, Clay. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Clay Hebert. And again, if you want to get all the links and the resources mentioned on this episode, all you have to do is go to smartpassiveincome.com/session284. Again, smartpassiveincome.com/session284. And Clay, once again, thank you so much. I look forward to rejecting you on the basketball court very soon, or it's probably going to be the other way around. But no, man, I appreciate you, and I look forward to chatting with you about my particular project in a webinar that we'll do and make it open to everybody. At the time of the recording, I'm not exactly even sure when that's going to happen. If you're listening to this far in the future, you'll probably see a replay for it, but the URL for that is clayandpat.com. And once again, thank you. So awesome. Now look forward to next week, because we are doing an interview with the founder of UGMonk, UGMONK. And after I interviewed this person, I mentioned it on Twitter, and everybody's like, I love this brand. It's one of my favorite brands. And Jeff, the founder, has an amazing story about how he kickstarted a brand new thing recently and made nearly $500,000 doing so. But more than that, he's just a down-to-earth guy, and I can't wait to share him with you and his product, which you may have heard of already, ugmonk.com. But anyway, thanks again. And one more time, the link to this episode's show notes, all the links we mentioned, smartpassiveincome.com/session284. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Passive Income Podcast at www.smartpassiveincome.com.
I get it. You want to grow your business, but selling at scale feels overwhelming. You're drowning in complicated funnels, creating different lead magnets, or constantly posting on social media. And that gets exhausting fast, especially when you're trying to sell to hundreds or thousands of people. But what if you could sell at scale with a simple, powerful quiz? A score app quiz or assessment asks your audience key questions and gives them instant personalized results based on their answers. Your audience gets to know where they are now and shows them the steps they need to hit their goals. You can set up a quiz in minutes using Score App's templates and have a powerful lead magnet that'll do the selling for you. The best part is your audience actually wants to take this quiz, and you build huge amounts of trust before you even make a single offer. No hard sales, no chasing leads, just value at scale. Get 50% off the first 3 months using the discount code SPI. Just head to scoreapp.com/SPI. Again, that's scoreapp.com/SPI. More people dream about building their own business and being their own boss rather than retiring early. But a majority of them never even take the first steps to register the business. Why? Because starting a business can feel overwhelming. With legal forms, paperwork, finances, it's a lot. And that's where Taylor Brands comes in. Taylor is a complete business builder designed to make launching your business simple and stress-free. You can register your LLC in just minutes, keeping your personal and business assets separate from day one. And from there, you can get access to everything you need to get off the ground, from legal documents, licenses and permits, invoicing and bookkeeping tools, and even a 100-day business coaching program to help you hit the ground running. You'll also get a free personalized business plan, branding tools, and so much more. And of course, our listeners get an exclusive 35% discount to get started. Just head to taylorbrands.com/SPI. That's TAILORBRANDS.com/SPI. Stop dreaming, start building with Taylor Brands.